How do you grow your business beyond referrals and word of mouth? Wes Moss, Chief Investment Strategist at Capital Investment Advisors, a company with more than $2 billion in client assets under management, joins us today. He'll show you the number one strategy for becoming the kingpin in your industry and how to accumulate social capital.
So basically, social media took me from a successful entrepreneur to a global brand. That's a very, very different thing, right?
It is.
The scale, everything that we do. And that's why I'm such a big proponent and advocate of social media, that people say, well, I don't like Facebook. I hear this, you don't need to like Facebook.
Right.
You don't need to
It's like saying, I don't like the fax machine back in 1980.
Yeah,
I don't like the fax machine.
I don't like my cell phone.
I don't like
You don't need to like your cell phone to use your cell phone.
I think it's a good way to look at that, because I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they get frustrated with the roadblocks they hit in these different mediums. Facebook will change their algorithm. Now all of a sudden you can't reach their people. But I think it's a really good way to look at that, where it's like saying, I don't like my phone. It's not your phone's fault. It's just that these mediums change.
And I think a lot of people, they say, oh, my kids use this Instagram. Or they go to Facebook, I see what my kids are doing, what my friends are doing. They are using social media for pleasure versus I use social media for profit.
For profit.
It's a very different thing. Because you look at most people's profile, you look at their social media profile, that is not designed to attract business. In some cases, it's embarrassing because you look at the social media profile, it is like a sales prevention department.
Sales prevention
right?
department.
And you look at things even now, people don't talk about it. Like, see, let's say someone applying for a job, right? You're not supposed to do it, but everybody checks out your social media.
They do.
They check out your Facebook, they check out Instagram. What kind of people are you? What kind of person you are, right? They want to check, okay, I see a lot of party, drinking, all that. I don't know if that's employee one, right? They don't talk about it. It's not politically correct, but people do check you out.
Of course they check.
So as a business owner, not more than that.
The minute I hear about somebody, I'm going on a new date, well, let's look at Facebook.
Let's check
immediately.
Of course, right? Even in dating, let's see who am I dating, right? Yeah. It's the same thing. So that's where the attention is. Back then, the attention is on TV, but now attention is on the phone, it's on social media. I think what has shifted is consumers, now they want to consume content where they want it, when they want it, how they want it, on the exact device that they want it. So now consumers have very much more power, who they want to listen to. If they don't want to listen to your message, it's not like they're not even paying attention. You cannot even get to them.
Well, I think that it's even harder today I think it's even harder today because there's no barriers to entry.
Correct.
So there's cell phones. We can all have a video crew, but it doesn't mean anybody can just put out good content. So in a world of 500,000 or 700,000 podcasts and 1 million YouTube channels, tell us about the core business, because again, you're not using the internet. You're using the internet to further your entrepreneurial ventures.
100%.
Whereas I think a lot of times we hear influencers are just using the internet itself to make money. But tell us about your core businesses.
Yes, because I say that fame without fortune is frustration.
Yeah, it is.
It's because you could be famous. Oh, I have a lot of followers. And as you know, Wes, you cannot go to the bank and say, hey, I don't have no check, but I've got a lot of followers on Instagram. Can I deposit that, right? You cannot do that. So that's not the point.
Yeah.
It is getting the attention, getting the right attention from the right people, and then by educating them, adding value in advance. Whatever product, give me an example. Give me something that people sell.
Let's talk about a riding lawnmower.
Okay, a riding lawnmower, right?
It's a relatively high ticket item.
Yes.
Right? Could be $8,000.
Okay, let's say $8,000, right? Lawnmower. Instead of like yelling, screaming on the internet, hey, I've got a lawnmower, buy my lawnmower, come to buy my lawnmower, right? That used to work before. Now it doesn't work because there are so many choices, and consumers have got so much power. They check out your price, they check out your features. They do
check out if they like, in general.
They like it, all that before they even, like whatever you say, they're like, they don't believe it. People are skeptical. Instead of doing that, why don't we flip it around, add value, meaning let's say creating content in advance. People who would buy this kind of lawnmower, what kind of problems and frustrations would they have? Let's give them some content that will help them to have a more beautiful lawn, right? To help them take care of the flowers or whatever it is. When you do that, they're like, okay, this is interesting. You're adding value to what I do before you ask any money. Now they're more inclined, you have my attention. It's almost like you need to get attention first, then you get their permission to sell. to make an offer.
Attention, brand, trust in the brand.
I call that brand equity, right?
Brand equity. And then you
So
sell.
instead of me yelling and screaming and say, oh, I have this program, I have this product and all that. No, I have so much content out there. When people consume the content, if people are not even consuming your content, chances are they're not going to do business with you, right?
If they're not interested enough to watch.
And just like exactly what you said, like before we met, it's like, Dan, I don't feel like a stranger at all. I felt like I know you.
Yeah.
Now, how is that possible? Because you've watched my content, you've listened to my content. It's like you know my story ahead of time. So then when we get together, the bond is immediate.
Well, and I think it's a very different, and I think that this is my version of how social media has worked, and radio is part of this.
Yes.
It's an older medium, but it still is a way to get familiar with people. And now it's easier to consume because most radio shows like Money Matters, it is a podcast. So then if you can't listen live, you listen to it on demand. And we know that a lot of our listenership comes now. 5 years ago, it might have been 1% from podcasts. Today, it's almost 50% that's listening and saying, oh, I used to listen all the time on Sunday, but now I listen Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday because
when I'm driving,
Yeah, I'm stuck in traffic, so why wouldn't I listen? So I think that what I've noticed as I've gotten further into my career now, 20 some years, the conversations by the time I'm meeting with somebody, it's very different because they do know so much more.
Yes.
They've watched, I have 400 videos on YouTube.
Yes.
They've watched 20 of them.
Yes.
I have 800 podcasts. They've listened to 20, 50 of them.
Yes.
So there's a lot, to your point, we're in a world where selling from the ground up on day one, I don't know, I'm sure there's some industries left where that happens, but that's just not, that is an old way to do
model.
business.
A very old way of doing business, and it's not scalable.
It isn't, yeah.
Right? It's like,
it's one to one to one to one.
One to one, and when I sit down with an entrepreneur, I say, okay, so what's your marketing strategy? If the minute they say, oh, it's like word of mouth referral, and I always say, you mean hope? And I say, hope is not a strategy, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not predictable, but versus with the social media, I can put my message, my content in front of the people that I know that are receptive, that are most likely to do business with me. I can do it in a mass scale. That's how you grow a company very quickly, right?